I'm sorry for speaking on this a little bit later than some people. Some people hopped on this as soon as it occurred, but I was on the clock when I found out, and I actually was on my break, to be honest, when I found out completely. But I got flooded with so many notifications on various social media platforms from Facebook, Twitter. My email got hit hard on Instagram DMs, all of that. People telling me about what happened with Joshua Brown. Now, before I get into it, let me offer condolences to his family, because I know they are absolutely devastated by this. Hopefully they do not get on the forgiveness train like the John family has done. I hope that they do not do that, and they seek out as much justice as possible unapologetically in the death of their son and their loved one. So in case y'all don't know who this is Joshua Brown. He was one of the, if not a very key witness in the Amber Geiger trial of the murder of Botham Jean. He was the neighbor to Botham Jean. He lived directly across the hall from him. And based on what I was reading, he said that he didn't really know Botham Jean like that, except for the fact that he would hear his music every single morning as he was getting ready to start his day. And the crazy part about it is he said that he did not meet Botham Jean until the day he was murdered. So imagine that you've heard this person's music from across the hall for how many days, weeks, or however you've heard the music, but the day that you actually officially introduce yourself to them by name and by face is the same day that this person gets murdered. Now, I remember him being on the stand, and one of the things that stood out to me was when he was speaking about him and how he got very emotional on that stand. He started to cry. That's something that I didn't even see Botham Jean's own family do, but we ain't going to get into that. So he testified, I believe it was on the second day, if I'm not mistaken. 2 weeks later, just about 2 weeks later, we find out that Joshua Brown was shot and killed in the parking lot of the complex that he lived in. Now, if you believe that this is not a coincidence, I still have that bridge in Brooklyn to sell you for free. This screams orchestrated hit, especially based on the details that I've heard. Now, from what I have heard is that he was shot and killed in the complex where he was at. They actually said that, according to reports, he pulled into the parking lot, got out of his car, and then he was pretty much shot in an ambush style. And based on what I've heard also, he was shot at close range. He was shot in the chest and in the mouth. So whoever killed him or had him killed made sure that he was deceased. And they said that there was witnesses there that tried to provide him aid, and said that they also saw gunshot wounds in his side and in his buttocks area. So this was definitely an orchestrated hit. This was not a random thing. Now, the only thing that they have said so far is, because they don't know who did it, is they said they saw a silver sedan pull out of the parking lot, like literally seconds after the shots rang out. So, and it's dark, so nobody can really see and everything like that. They can only go off based on what the surveillance cameras show, and that's what they saw, is that it was a silver sedan. So this person most likely had dark clothing on and had their face covered. So hopefully they do find out who this person is, and if they don't, I wouldn't be surprised, because when it comes to stuff like that, it's hard to find out who it is unless you really do a thorough and hardcore investigation. But they wanted this man dead for sure. Now, I was on the heavy.com website, and they were talking about the 5 things about Joshua Brown, and I pretty much explained what was going on up to, with that point. But one thing I did not know about him is that this guy actually had a very entrepreneurial mindset about himself. They said he owned several Airbnb properties. So this guy was definitely about his money, and definitely was making some very good money. And you can look at his picture and tell that he was a pretty young guy. So he had his head on straight. He definitely was headed in the right direction, and it's just very unfortunate that this happened to him. But for them to try to mask this as him being killed in a random drive-by or whatever they're trying to put out there, that's ridiculous. We know that this was an orchestrated hit because he just testified 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks later, and just a few days after the trial has ended, he ends up dead. This is exactly why I'm glad Bunny did not go on that stand. But as you can see with her circumstances, she got death threats. She got fired from her job. She got called anti-police. It took money that people raised for her in the GoFundMe in order for her to make sure she still had a stable life. Her life is pretty much in shambles right now because of her position, she cannot contact anybody. She probably can't even contact family members. She probably hasn't spoken to her parents or her family in God knows how long, out of fear that they might wiretap her phone and listen to her conversation and pick up where she's located. Like I said, the last time we saw her physically was a few months ago when Phil from the Advice Show interviewed her on his platform, and we really haven't seen or heard from her since. And remember, they put her on a gag order with that video, so we'll never see that. We'll never hear her side of the story except for what Phil put on his channel. But as far as her being questioned even more deeper than what Phil asked her on his show, we'll never get it. And you know what? It's good that now she's laying low, because what happened to him could easily happen to her, if not worse, because she actually had cell phone footage that we'll never see. Now, I think it was another brother that was on the stand that was a witness as well, because I saw his picture when I was looking through the timelines. Hopefully they watch him, because they might come for him next. I'm telling you, the police departments in this establishment, in some places more than others, operate just like a gang. They are mad that Amber Geiger even got 10 years in prison because they feel that she should have walked. They operate just like a gang. And speaking of departments, I heard that the department that Amber Geiger worked for, if I'm not mistaken, was 4 miles away from the complex from where they live. Because, you know, Amber Geiger, Botham Jean, and Joshua Brown all lived in the same complex. 4 miles is nothing. That is not far at all. I wouldn't say that's walking distance, but it is not far driving. So whoever did this to him knew what kind of car he drove. They knew where he lived at, and they knew of his whereabouts. Or they just parked there, just waiting for him to come home from wherever it was that he was coming from. Can you imagine if maybe he was out with his family, and that would with his family, and that would be the last time he saw his family, or the last time his family saw him? That is just really messed up. Like, that is messed up. But also, whoever was supposed to be giving him protection, I would say they dropped the ball, but the thing is, they never picked up the ball to be dropped in the first place. They left him out there to dry. Like, when he got on there and he gave his testimony, which was a very good testimony, might I add, that was it for him. And he took a risk. He took a huge risk getting out there and putting himself out there to the world to be seen. He probably knew his life would be in danger, but he just had to get the truth out there. And for that, I honor him for that, because that took guts. That's true bravery right there. When people talk about bravery, that's bravery. When you have to testify in a high profile case like this, where you know the stakes are high and you know your life could probably be in danger the minute you leave that courtroom, you can only honor something like that. That is honorable, in my honest opinion. That is honorable in my eyes. But rest in peace to Joshua Brown. Like I said, my condolences go to his family. Hopefully they do not get on that forgiveness train thing that other family, and I'm gonna just refer to them as the other family, has gotten on, because that would be even more devastating. And hopefully they really get down to the bottom of this. Some people were saying they need to get the feds involved, such as the FBI, and not let the police department down there do it, because let's be real here, the department down there is the one who did it. I'm just saying it right now. They are the ones who are involved. But even with the FBI, they're a little bit shaky as well. So hopefully the family can come up with something to get a very thorough investigation done behind this. They need to really do maybe their own private investigation. I don't know what steps they will have to take in order to get that done, but I'm telling you right now, that whole drive-by thing that they're trying to go with, it was a drive-by, all right. It was definitely a hit, and it was from someone, and that it was either someone in that department or somebody in that department hired someone else, like an outside source, like a hitman, to do it. Because it's no coincidence that he testifies as a star witness, as a key witness, and he ends up dead 2 weeks later after his testimony. in a couple days after the trial ends. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next one.